Welcome to Distribution Talk with Jason Bader, the show where we dive into the stories, struggles, and solutions from business owners and thought leaders in the wholesale distribution market. Hey friends, Jason here. So for this episode, I wanted to do something a little bit different. I haven't done a solo in a long time, and I think it would be fun to just kind of talk with you all, kind of share my opinions. You know, I'm always asking questions of guests and getting their opinions. And occasionally, of course, I sprinkle in a few of my own thoughts as well. But this time, I just wanted to share an experience with you. And it really got me thinking about how I travel and how I conduct my business when I'm out on the road. So, without further ado, let's just jump right into it. This episode is brought to you by Connected Peers, an online peer collaboration platform for distribution professionals. Let's face it, most managers don't have the opportunity to speak with their industry peers about common challenges in their departments. Sure, they might see each other at an annual conference, but that hardly provides any real relationship building or continuity. What if there was a forum to solve challenges with those in your same role? Well, now there is. The concept is simple. Purchasing managers meeting with purchasing managers, training managers meeting with training managers, marketing managers meeting with marketing managers. You get the idea. There are 10 unique role-based communities to choose from. These are monthly, facilitated meetings all via Zoom. Ask questions and receive feedback from people who understand the challenges of your position. Isn't it time that you quit going it alone? To learn more and find your peers, visit us at www.connectedpeers.com. So a couple of weeks ago, I had kind of an amazing experience. I was doing an engagement in Salt Lake City, and because of flight scheduling, I had to fly in very early in the morning into Salt Lake, and I kind of had a day to kill. Obviously, could have gone and seen, a client or whatnot, but that didn't work out. When you procrastinate, that doesn't always come to fruition. So I thought, okay, well, I've been to Salt Lake several times. And by the way, if you've never been to Salt Lake, I'm telling you, this is a stunning, stunning place. You fly in, you've got mountains on either side of you. It's just a gorgeous place. It's amazing. So I would definitely encourage anyone to spend a little time around Salt Lake City. But, I'd spent time there and I thought, I could go up to Park City or some of the mountains and the canyons and things like that and go take a look and go check out some of the places I've gone skiing in the past and whatnot. But anyway, I was jumping into my rental car and I started kind of out towards downtown. And as you plug in your phone into the rental car, it jumped into showing Google Maps. And the funny thing about Google Maps is that it suggests places, where you might want to be traveling to and obviously recognizes where you are. So I look and I see this suggestion for Bonneville Salt Flats. And I'm thinking, Bonneville Salt Flats, why would it be suggesting this? And then I recalled a couple of months ago, a good friend of mine was passing through town and he was going to be going through Salt Lake or that area and heading east. And he and I started talking a little bit about the salt flats. And so we did a little Googling, and obviously Google remembers when you are interested in a subject and suggested it to you one more time. And as he and I talked, about the famous movie, The World's Fastest Indian, where Anthony Hopkins plays a gentleman named Burt Monroe, who goes out and sets this speed record on his Indian Scout, highly modified Indian Scout. And it's an unofficial record of 205 miles an hour across the salt. And it's highly dramatic, and very cinematic and, just a kind of a wonderful story. Anyhow, so we were talking about this. And so, as I said, it pops up on my screen here. And it said, it's an hour and 40 minutes away. Now I'm sitting here in my rental car. I will not tell you the rental car company that I was with here, but thought, that's not that far away. So I decided I am going to go see the Bonneville Salt Flats. I've always wanted to see it. I think it's fascinating, but I'd never been there. So I jump in my rental car and drive the hour and 45 minutes. And trust me, I can entertain myself for an hour and 45 minutes on the road. And that's a beautiful day, as many days are in Salt Lake City, in that Utah, Nevada border area. And so I'm blasting down the highway, enjoying myself. And I start seeing the salt flats on either side of the highway. And I'm like, oh, this is really interesting. And I see these interesting little sculptures that people have put out just off the highway. And it's just getting more and more mystic and fascinating. And there's beautiful mountain backdrops behind it. And then I wind up getting all the way to this area. And for those of you who haven't visited this, you go and you drive down another paved road. You get off the highway and drive down a paved road, and you come to a sign that talks, oh, here's the world famous Bonneville Salt Flats Speedway. And it's really just nothing more than an asphalt parking lot and a big sign that you see on, national parks or national attractions. And yeah, I'm looking around. I'm like, well, I mean, is there a tent here? I got to register. I got to pay a registration fee or something to go out on these flats, and drive the car. And I'm looking around. There's really nothing. And I'm thinking, well, okay. And so I kind of got out of the car, wandered around, started looking, and I see some people shooting a commercial out on the salt flats. And let me tell you something. I mean, looking at these salt flats, it's beautiful. Absolutely gorgeous out there, this long white stretch. And so I see them out there, and I see a gentleman kind of wandering back towards the parking lot, and he's with the crew that's shooting this commercial. So I go up and start talking to him. I say, well, can anybody just go wander out on these things and drive? He goes, oh, yeah. He goes, there's no rules out here. You just pull off the asphalt onto the salt and start driving. I'm like, okay, is there any lanes or anything? He looks around, he laughs at me, he goes, no, dude, you just drive where you want to. This is this last bastion of freedom that you can go and drive as fast as you want, and you're responsible for the consequences. I was like, okay, well, I guess that's what I'm going to do. And so I wind up gingerly going out onto these flats and driving out and testing the car and seeing what it's like. And let me tell you something. First of all, salt is not like asphalt. It's not grippy. This is kind of slick. And so it's not, it's kind of squirrely. You get up to speed and it's like, uh-oh, I don't know if this is going to work out so well in my favor. And so, you kind of have to test it out and feel it. But there's something amazing, absolutely magical about going out and being able to drive really anywhere you want. Everything's basically flat. And you just kind of drive and you drive around in circles. And you kind of I was acting like a little kid out there, just enjoying myself and pushing the car a little bit and then backing off. And I met another family out there that they were out having literally like a picnic out in the middle of this salt desert. And so we start chatting a little bit, and they're talking, and this guy tells me he pushes his car out at 140 miles an hour. And I'm thinking, oh, that's pretty good. And we were just chatting about how amazing it was in this open space and this freedom and something that you just don't get everywhere in the world. This is not a real common occurrence. And so I left them. He kind of pointed to me where the actual areas where they would do the land speed records, so that it was more compact than the rest of the flats, a little bit more manicured, if you will. And so I went and tried to push this little car as fast as it would go. And it's scary. I'm going to tell you right now, it was a little scary, but it was just amazing. It's just this wide open sensation of driving in the salt and enjoying yourself and just driving out there and being completely free and open. So the reason I'm sharing all this, and I know I'm getting a little melodramatic in the way that I'm describing it, but what really dawned on me as I was driving back towards town in search of a car wash that was going to help me scrape the salt out of this thing so I wouldn't get myself in too much trouble. But as I was driving back, I started thinking about what we do as travelers and business travelers, that we get sometimes so stuck in this rut of flying into a city, going to the hotel, going to the client, back to the hotel, or just straight back to the airport and then leaving. And we really don't take the time to stop and look around and see what interesting things does this city have to offer. And it was just a very interesting thought that came to my mind, that I'd spent 20 years on the road. And I stop and think about some of the things that I've seen when I have stopped and taken the time to go look. But more often than not, it was airport to hotel to client to airport and home. And I really didn't stop and take in the flavor of that city or that area. And I think I was lamenting the fact that I'm not doing that as often. And I stopped doing that early on when I started traveling. It was exciting, it was fun. And now I'm a little more cynical. I'm like, man, going to the airport and going through all these protocols now, wearing masks and not wearing masks. And if somebody coughs, do I stare at them funny? Those types of things have really jaded me on this travel experience. And so this little Google suggestion, this little map suggestion totally opened my eyes. And it reminded me that there's some really cool things in the world and there's some really great places just here, even in, continental United States, and these cities I travel to on a regular basis. Well, sharing my whole experience with the client I was working with that next day. We had a dinner that evening, and one of the people in our party, she shared a website with me that really I intend to use pretty often. And full disclosure, this is not a sponsor. This is just a website. These guys aren't giving me a nickel to push them, but I'm telling you right now, it really opened my eyes as to what was interesting or possible. And it's called Atlas Obscura. So it's atlasobscura.com. And I'll link that in the show notes just, so everybody can take a look at it. But it's fascinating. And really, their claim to fame is cool and unusual things that you can do in a city. And so it's not like the usual tourist attractions. What they do is they really tend to find those strange and wonderful things that most of us would probably overlook or we just wouldn't even think about. So I was looking at Chicago, for example, and I go to Chicago on a regular basis. And I do have my favorite things about Chicago. I love Wicker Park. And, that's just kind of one of my favorite things to go do is go spend time there. But it was fascinating. Some of the really neat things, I'll share a couple of them off of their site, is in Wicker Park, actually. It's the Secret Agent Supply Company. I'm thinking, I have got to see this the next time I'm there. So it's just those little types of funny things. And then the Palmer House, downtown. Now, that might be a little bit more of a mainstream attraction. But I'm telling you, you go to the Palmer House Hotel and it's fascinating. It's just a beautiful old hotel and sit in the lobby and you can't help but be in awe, just inspired, just for me at least, you go in and like, man, this place is outstanding. I had the opportunity to speak there one time and I remember walking down these halls and looking at some of the very famous people over the years that had been up on that same stage. For me, it was just kind of a special moment. So the Palmer House has always had a special place in my heart. But actually, it was one of my visits to the Palmer House one time that another really unusual travel experience occurred. I was staying there, and this is a very nice hotel. If you get a chance to look at the website, it's just a beautiful old hotel. And usually it's pretty subtle and sedate, and you don't see a whole lot of shenanigans going on in the hotel. But I'm seeing all of these younger men in tracksuits, and they've got these different countries on the back of them, and they're kind of messing around with each other in the halls and in the lobby, and they're like kind of boxing each other, messing around. And I'm looking at this going, like, this is not traditional Palmer House behavior. What are these kids doing? And so, I can't figure it out, and I see, and there's a bunch of them, there's tons of them, and they all look to be from different places, different countries, different ethnicities. And, that's not unusual for Chicago. It's definitely a melting pot. So I finally went up to the concierge. I'm like, okay, man, what's going on with these guys? I see them all over the place. They're smacking at each other and playing around. And he kind of laughed. He said, well, the World Boxing Championships are being held at University of Illinois, Chicago. And I'm like, well, what's that? And so we started talking to it. And really, it's kind of the precursor to the Olympics. These guys are really trying to qualify for their Olympic teams. All these different countries. So they had the boxing championships. I'm like, well, I mean, how far away is this? And he said, 10-minute cab ride. And I said, well, shoot, okay. I mean, is it expensive? Can you help me get tickets? Or he said, because no, dude, just go. They might charge you $10 at the door, maybe $15. And I'm like, really? So curiosity got the best of me. I jump in the cab and I go over, and this is before Uber, But jump in the cab and I go to this basketball arena where this is being held. And I go in and there's really not that many people there. It's not like it's a packed house. It's very low key getting in there, but you go in and there are two boxing rings set up on the basketball court next to each other. And essentially there are two fights going on. And these are young men from different countries and they're trying to qualify for the Olympic teams. And so there are 3-round fights and they're going on simultaneously. So for me, somebody, I'm bored with this fight. I'm going to go look at this fight and I'm going to go back and forth. And I'm sitting there just absolutely fascinated by this whole experience. And I'm looking up in the stands and there are these groups of people from different countries and they're waving their flags and they're cheering on their competitors. And again, this was a 10-minute cab ride, maybe $10, $15 ticket to get in here. It was one of the most memorable experiences I've ever had on the road. And so again, if I hadn't taken that moment to ask what's going on and be willing to leave my hotel room and my room service and my usual routine, I never would have seen this. And so again, I share that story is because there are things like that that are going on all the time, constantly. And I guess I'm challenging you all, take a look around. And when you go to a city, take a couple minutes and find out what are the cool and unusual things to do. Again, I just stumbled upon this, suggested this Atlas Obscura, but I'm sure there are other ways to gather that information. But if you're a traveler like me, and travel has gotten much more difficult over the years, we've got to reward ourselves with something. We have to enjoy this experience of travel and seeing things, or else, our job gets kind of mundane. It gets kind of frustrating and you start to experience burnout. And so I'm challenging you. Don't just be the person who goes from airport to hotel to client and back to the airport. Take a couple minutes, go look around, see what this amazing place that you visit has to offer. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't need the allure of Chicago or Dallas or Washington, D.C. or something like that to have these amazing experiences. You can find them in small, small towns. I mean, they all have a story. They all have something unusual and interesting about them. And as I said, I'm just challenging you, go beyond and take a little time to drink these things in, because eventually we're not going to travel anymore. Eventually you get to a point in your life that you don't have these opportunities to be plunked down into a town not of your choosing. And I would hate for you to miss some of the great stuff out there. Again, I know this was a little bit of an unusual distribution talk, but I just wanted to share this experience with you. And I think that I really hope you all stop for a moment and think about, where am I going next and what is out there for me beyond just the monetary gain or the potential client. With that, I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and I hope you all have a fantastic day. Thank you for listening. If you liked what you heard, consider sharing with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to follow the show on your favorite podcast application. Links to sponsors, products, and services mentioned during this episode can be found in the show description area or at www.distributiontalk.com. Distribution Talk is edited and mixed by the brilliant team at the Creative Imposter Studios. This episode was brought to you by my company, The Distribution Team. We are a consulting services firm dedicated to helping wholesale distribution clients remove barriers to profitability, generate wealth, and achieve personal goals. To learn more about how we can help your company succeed, check us out at www.thedistributionteam.com.